drugs, but I can't and I'm afraid.
I wish that I was smart.
I wish that I was rich.
I wish it wasn't hard for me to grow up and forgive.
I wish that I could help. I wish I wasn't sick.
I wish I was Tom McDonald. I'd be just like him.
I wish I wasn't sober. I miss it when the party wasn't over. Happiness was right around the corner. Every single night was like the best one of our lives. Now we're older. The good old days are out of reach. I wish that they were closer. I wish I wasn't anxious and I wish I could fast forward. And I wish that I could rewind, but they don't make that controller. I wish the nights were longer and I wish the days were shorter. And I wish that I could sleep enough to maintain my composure. I feel crazy. I wish that I was normal. I wish that I could kill myself but also be immortal. Take me to the oracle. I heard that time is borrowed. Can you give me back my yesterdays? I'll give you my tomorrows. Forget all of my morals and just live like I cannot remember sorrow. Before all of the tattoos and the cornrows, I was different, I was happy, I was calmer, I was young and full of hormones. Now I'm wishing for a time machine, I'd step into that portal and be gone.
I wish on shooting stars or were they satellites, maybe they were.
Hey, good morning, you night owls. What's going on out there? Yeah, I was going to go to bed, but I've just heard too much today, so I figured I'd sound off a little bit, I guess. Anyway, the opening music there, I'd like to credit that to Tom McDonald. Check out his new album. He did a release last week on Friday, I believe it was, a video with Adam Calhoun and Nova Rockefeller, Only God We Trust. Pretty good video. Of course, he always comes out with good stuff. So is Calhoun. I love both those guys. And Nova's awesome too. Good folks, good people. I keep getting copyright infringement for playing Tom's music, even though I've got an email from him saying I can play it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens tonight. Anyway, I just wanted to, chop up a couple of things, I guess. The one thing that's on everybody's mind is fuel prices. There's not a single one of us that this is not affecting. I guess it was last night. I got 14 gallons of fuel, and it cost me $62.50. I've got a 38-gallon tank, diesel truck, and, I was like, I better top it off because it's just going to keep going up, and, it is. I watched it go up every time I went somewhere today. Every time I pass the gas station, I'm looking. It's going up, 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 up. I know I saw that there's a marquee or whatever you want to call it, the price board out in front of a gas station somewhere in California today, and it was up over $7. And they're talking about, $10 isn't out of the price range. And then Onion Head, he gets on there today and tells everybody that it's not him, that he's not the reason, that his administration isn't the reason. And he starts talking about how we need to be energy independent. He was handed the keys to an energy independent country when he took over. We were the world's exporter of oil when he took over. He was given 3 of the vaccines, which remains to be seen what that's going to be all, how that's all going to pan out, I guess, once this is all said and done with. For the most part, everybody's walked away from this COVID. People are done. They're done with it. Now we've got the Ukrainian debacle going on. And I think that there keeps being proven to be a lot of misinformation going on about that, but you don't hear about it with the mainstream media because it benefits the war hawks. And when you see people like John Bolton, that's who that picture was. Let me show you a picture. I call him Angry Walrus. I think it's a fitting nickname, and I think it's a fitting likening. Let's check it out. Don't you think? Which one's the ambassador? Which one's the walrus? They're both definitely a little angry. Bolton's definitely angry. He's got that butthole mouth going. Look at that mustache, man. you imagine him with that mustache? That's a big upper lip right there. That thing's like 1.5 inches. That's a big ass upper lip. Just like that angry walrus. But I saw him, he came out in the news, it was like 6 days ago or whatever. And anytime you see John Bolton, it's usually when tensions are flying and when it's time to get down and get dirty. Because I'll tell you what, he wants to get in there and start a war. And Trump asked him for a resignation, and he confirmed that he wasn't fired, that he resigned. Now, that's fine, but a resignation to me is when you just decide that you're done. It's not when you're asked. When you're asked to resign, you're basically being fired. You can't tell me other. If somebody asks you to resign, they're basically saying, hey, look, pal, here's your option. You can resign and you can fade off into the sunset, or you can buck and I'm going to fire you and it's going to get ugly. That's what that is. Nixon resigned. Why did Nixon resign? Because he knew what was coming down the pike. He knew what was coming from Watergate. To me, a resignation is, it's just saying, I'm done. I've had enough. To me, a resignation that really even means anything would be one where where you've had it with your boss, you've had it with policy, you have a moral objection to something going on. At the end, when they were doing meetings about Afghanistan and trying to have negotiations, and Bolton was the national security advisor, they didn't even invite him to the meeting. Like, his staff had to kind of finagle their way in there just to get him in the room. That's how sick of him, he wanted Iranian regime change. Trump didn't want that. Trump wanted to negotiate. The reason Iran is the way it is today, the reason Iran and the United States have the relationship that they have, it goes all the way back to 1953. And we went in there and played regime change. We went in there and finagled and messed with everything. Ran the Shah off. That's how I got the Ayatollah. And from there it was just a shit show. And we want to sit here and all these people, these idiots in this leftist media, they want to, they're still talking about Russian this and Russian that. And they're saying that now they're saying that Trump is calling Putin a hero. Trump came out and just said he thought that it was a pretty smart choice on Putin's part to invade Ukraine when he did. I don't think he was singing his praises or anything. He just said it was a smart move, and it was a smart move because what's Biden going to do? He's going to have soup? Have an ice cream cone? He's going to have some pudding? Eat some applesauce and mumble and fall asleep? What's he going to do? What's Kamala going to do? She's going to laugh, cackle, give somebody some kind of a history lesson? Did you hear what she said when they asked her about Ukraine? It was the most idiotic response I've ever heard in my life, and it showed exactly how little she really knows. She knows nothing. She sat there and, Ukraine is a country in Eastern Europe that borders Russia. She doesn't know anything about Ukraine. When she was asked if she's gone to the border, we've been to the border. And I want to say it was Lester Holt. I'm not sure. She's talked about defunding the police, and then Biden gets up there for his State of the Union address and says, we need to fund the police, not defund the police. She came out and said that needed to be and it's crazy because she was a cop. She was the cop, and the general, the attorney general in California that wanted to throw parents that were homeless, that had children that were truant from school. She wanted to throw those parents in jail. Basically taking those kids and making them a ward of the state, making them state raised. And she thought it was funny. Tell me if there's not a bigger cop than that. I mean, if those are people in your state that are going through those type of issues, and now that's just ridiculous. I mean, especially in her district, you've got people defecating on the streets. You have a poop patrol in San Francisco. You have people just walking into stores and I mean, if it's under $1,000, you can just walk in and walk out. I mean, they've shut down Walgreens, CVS, all kinds of, pharmacies, drugstores, things like that. They've done smash and grabs on, down in like Union Square, where you have, your nice, your really nice upper end stores, your Louis Vuittons, your, you name it, your Nordstroms, going in smashing and grabbing jewelry. That's not going into a grocery store and taking food because you're hungry. To me, that's larceny. Breaking and entering. I mean, and these people are, and it's also a conspiracy because you'll have groups of these people that go in there and do that, and they mask off their license plates. And the cops aren't going to do anything. What's the point? Why put yourself in harm's way to take people like that and off the street when, you go and book them, and an hour later they're out doing it again? I mean, it's pretty crazy. And then they want to defund them, and it's just like they just change the narrative every day. And then Biden today gets up and says that, he says that the reason that we're having oil shortages and fuel prices are doing what they're doing has nothing to do with his administration. When that bozo signed he signed the executive order 10 minutes after he took office, basically. And he signed a whole ton of them. Don't tell me he didn't read any of that stuff. He just, whatever they handed him, he signed. And he's proven himself to do that. I mean, the whole time, every time he gets up in front of people, he makes the gaffe all the time, the Freudian slip, where he says, who am I supposed to ask a question? And that the question's been already set up. The answer's on his little teleprompter in front of him. He can't hardly read that. And he'll ask, he'll call on somebody from the media, and they lob him up some softball question. I mean, he sat there, Christmas Eve, when the guy from Oregon had called in, and they ended the conversation, and he said, well, let's go, Brandon, and Biden's like, I agree, let's go, Brandon, and Jill Biden's sitting there just going, oh my God, she just all of a sudden just was like stone-faced and just, it went right over his head. I think he probably thinks that Let's Go Brandon was about that race car driver. I'm sure that's what they all told him. They probably all told him that that's what it is. It doesn't mean anything, I mean, and to get up there and just lie. And then Psaki, she gets up there and she lies. Peter Doocy asks her questions about the whole thing with the oil. And she blames the oil companies because there's 9,000 open leases. Well, anybody that knows anything about the oil business knows that just because there's an open lease doesn't mean that there's oil there. And it doesn't mean that an oil company necessarily wants to just go in there all willy-nilly and just start drilling without knowing what's up. I mean, they got to have geologists go in and check it all out. They have to have some kind of a fairly, I would say a fair degree of certainty that where they're drilling, that they're gonna hit what they're looking for, because there's a lot of money that goes in that. I mean, for anybody who's never seen been out to an oil field or seen a rig set up or anything like that, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. You don't just go out there just all boogie woogie and just start poking holes. I mean, it doesn't work like that. I mean, shutting down that pipeline. I mean, we were energy independent. Now we've come to the point where we've got a guy eating applesauce and pudding, begging OPEC to start pumping more out of the ground. He's trying to work out deals with Venezuela, which Venezuela is going to laugh in our face because look at all the sanctions we've put on Venezuela. That's why Venezuela is so poor, because they can't sell their oil to anybody. They've got more than Saudi Arabia. But because we didn't like their leadership, we tried to stage a coup down there, a few years back during the Trump administration. They wanted Juan Guaido in there. And the United Nations had said that their election where Maduro got elected was probably the cleanest election that they'd ever seen. And we're trying to go down there and uproot him. And you look what happened to Hugo Chavez. And then the reason that, everybody, you can go into a grocery store down there. Max Blumenthal did it during the whole thing. They set it up to, it was Guaido's people who took out like the aid that was being brought into Venezuela for the people. They had trucks full of food and stuff like that. And Guaido's people, his forces or whatever, his police were the ones that burned up all those trucks and everything. And then they tried to make it look like it was Maduro when no, it wasn't. And the grocery stores have everything that we have here. It's just that people can't afford it because of the sanctions that we've put on them. So it's kind of funny that now we're trying to go to the bargaining table with them after we've completely screwed their country over. How are they going to take that? I know how I would take it. I would screw the United States over big time. I would screw them over big time. And now we're talking, we've been spending, I don't know how much every day. It's a lot. I want to say that in the last year, it's been billions of dollars on Russian oil, right? And so now, Genius is talking, we're gonna cut it off. We're not gonna buy any more oil from Putin. But yet he's put these stupid sanctions that Putin doesn't care about the sanctions, and quite frankly, the Russians don't really either. These are people that have been living under sanctions for forever. It's nothing new under the sun for the Russians. So he puts the sanctions on them, but we still keep buying the oil. But then now we're going to try and pull that. And what's that going to do to us? Who's going to eat that? Who's going to be the one to suffer for that? Who's going to be the people that are going to, take the brunt of this thing? It's going to be people like you and I. People like you and I that are trying to, already having a tough enough time as it is. Things have not gotten any better under Biden. Nothing has got better. I can't think of a single thing. Nothing. It's gotten worse. Look at the three people the top three that we have in this country right now. We got Biden. And so if something happens to him, guess who we get? We get Kamala. Something happens to her. Guess what we get? Nancy Pelosi. Can you imagine that? Having that crazy ass woman in charge of this. Oh my God. When are we going to say enough? People, we outnumber these idiots. How come every time I start a podcast, that stupid cat's outside the door making noise? God, that thing drives me nuts. You hear him? He's out there killing things outside, and then he comes in and whines and snivels, after he's probably out there eating the head out of a rabbit or something. But I digress on the cat. I never thought I'd have a cat. I can't even believe I'd have a cat. I'm going to say I don't have a cat. I don't know whose cat that is. Anyway. I can't even imagine. I never thought there was any way that Joe Biden was going to be in there. It was just, who cares? Who cares? When are we just going to say enough? Weigh in on this, all you cats that work out there in the oil fields and stuff, I know what you think. I know what you think. You don't have to tell me. What happens? What happens if you just go to work? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? You're going to be heroes. They're going to write folk songs, country songs about you guys. I mean, we can't just sit here and listen to this garbage from these people much longer. You know, we've got no business messing with this whole Ukrainian situation. You know, I mean, we caused the whole thing. NATO caused it. The agreement with Russia was that NATO was not going to add any countries and they weren't going to encroach on Russia. And Putin has put forth, you know, his demands for peace. And he says that basically Ukraine has to recognize Crimea and then recognize the Donbass, which they've basically taken over already anyhow, as being part of Russia. Zelensky, on the other hand, you know, everything that comes out of there turns out, I mean, like the Ghost of Kyiv video game. The 13 dead on Snake Island didn't happen. They were taken and returned to their families. It just keeps going. You know, there was a picture of Miss Ukraine, right, in fatigues, and with a rifle, saying that she was on the front lines. It was an airsoft gun. It wasn't even. It was a fake gun. It was for like some kind of goofy promotion or propaganda. I mean, Ukraine is definitely winning in the propaganda war right now. And I think that that's the same type of situation. You got the Ukrainian people are the ones that are, you know, taking a hit on it. But then in the Donbass, you've had 14,000 people that have been shelled and sniped and blown up. And, you know, I mean, 14,000 people. Can you imagine what would happen in the United States if there was a region of this country where a certain group of people just decided to go and just start shelling? I mean, in the Donbass, you got people that are Russian Orthodox. They speak Russian. 1 in 3 people in Ukraine, their first language is Russian. I mean, the whole thing looks like it was just kind of set up to, and I'm not advocating anything that Putin's done. Trust me, I would never advocate the loss of innocent life, any life. I mean, those poor kids that are in that Russian army, they didn't even know what they were going into Ukraine for. They were told that it was drills, that they were going to be accepted and celebrated for coming into their country. You know, I mean, they honestly thought that, you know. I mean, so they've been misled. You know, I mean, this has been something that's been in the making for a long time. And Putin just kind of waited for the time to be right. And then Trump says that he, you know, hey, this was a smart move to do it when he did it. I don't think that that's propping the guy up. I don't think that that's having a bromance with the guy or anything like that. He's just saying, look, I mean, what better time? He wouldn't have done it with Trump. He wouldn't have done it with Trump. It would have never happened with Trump. I don't care what you say. It wouldn't have happened. There is absolutely no signal to anybody in the world that there's any strength left in this country. We are going. I mean, it's already happened. I mean, it was bad enough. It was bad enough before this all took place. With inflation, fuel prices were already going up. You know, and then dummy takes out. I mean, we go through 20.6 million barrels of oil a day in this country. So he takes out a day and a half worth of oil from our reserves. A day and a half. And acts like that's some kind of a save-all solution. A day and a half. What happens? You know, I mean, when you're paying $4.60 for diesel and it goes down 2 cents to $4.58, what am I supposed to do? Get on here and jock Biden? Sit here and talk about what a great leader is and how he's such awesome, how he brought it down from $4.60 to $4.50. It's at an all-time high. Fuel. I mean, the prices, I don't quote me on it, I saw it earlier. two different kinds of crude, but like Brent crude, I think was up at, there was one at 132 today and one at 139. Now they dropped back down by closing. And that's no doubt just, manipulation of the stock market by speculators and, commodities traders and things like that. But we've all been taking a hit at the grocery store. We've been taking a hit on everything. Everything we do. Everything we do is going through the fucking roof. Food, fuel, everything. And what's it going to do with all this? They're talking about possibly $10 a gallon. They're saying it's going to go up 20 to 30 cents a day, and it did yesterday. And it went up during the day today. I watched it rise at the gas stations here every time I go by. Sometimes 5 cents, sometimes a dime, By tomorrow morning, who knows what it's going to be. I fueled up last night just because I was like, it's only going to keep getting higher, and I got to have fuel in my truck, You hate sitting there and running your card and watching that, watching that thing, and you're going, Jesus Christ. But what are you going to do? I'd rather top it off now where it's at and at least have some fuel for a little longer. Hope for some reprieve, but it's not going to happen. These leaders get up there and talk about how it's going to be some sacrifice for the people of this country. They're not taking any sacrifice. It's not affecting them whatsoever. And that's my point. These politicians don't do anything for you and I. We're electing the idiot kid in high school that says he's going to put pop machines on every corner of the hallways and he's going to get the fucking cafeteria food improved. We're going to eat pizza and hamburgers every day. That's what we do when we vote. We vote for these people that just sit there and they just lie. They're not going to do anything they say. What did Biden say? He was going to forgive college debt, mandatory $15 an hour minimum wage. He took that off the table immediately. Remember that? Well, I don't think that's going to happen. That was part of his campaign. He got up there and grandstanded on that every time that he gave a speech in front of 5 people. And then he didn't do that when he sat in a basement for 50 days before the election. And had some kind of weird plastic surgery or brain implant or brain frontal lobotomy or something. I don't know what happened there. All I know is I've never heard of a case where somebody wins an election with and receives more votes than anybody running for that position ever, and sits in a basement hiding out for 50 days before. And then when he is out there campaigning, he's challenging people in the audience to push-up contests and calling them fat. He's arguing with, union workers. He called one lady a dog, what do you call her, a dog-faced pony soldier? How do you treat people like that? It just, it's just something else. This thing with Kamala on Ukraine was just absolutely, it was almost insulting. This is just absolutely terrible. Let's pull this up here. You guys, if you guys haven't heard this, you got to listen to it because this is ridiculous. All right. Sorry, it takes me a minute to do all this stuff here. All right. Let's get us a little volume here. This is great. Layman's terms. She's a kindergartner. I like how they approach this with kid gloves. Dagan cracks me. And that time isn't it? Yeah, that time's every day. Sure. Well, I was hoping they were going to play that. Sounds like that's just their reaction. It came up on here. I was just trying to find it. Because it's terrible. I mean, it is terrible. I mean, let's see, maybe this will get grief. Listen to this. Oh. 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 Basically, that's wrong. That's a great way to explain it right there. You know, that's our vice president. And I can understand the whole layman's terms thing, but, you know, I mean, guys I know that are layman, guys I know that, you know, even if, you know, everybody thinks if you work in a trade that you're, you know, some kind of a moron. But, I mean, most of the guys that are working trades actually are more politically savvy than, you know, than a lot of people, to tell you the truth. I mean, this woman, I mean, just something else, you know. And then, I mean, good grief, the giggly thing that, oh, God. You know, and then you got dummy, you know, he gets up there and says that they're, you know, talks about the Ukrainians, calls them Iranians. And I would encourage people to try and get a secondary glimpse on this stuff. You know what I mean? It's a good idea. Because there's more out there than you think. And it's hard for me to sit here and say one way or another because I'm not there. And I, you know, I mean, but, you know, there's a lot of tricky stuff going on over there. There's a lot of tricky stuff. And it's definitely a lot more complicated than Kamala explaining the way she did. You know, and I mean, I read a stat the other day that said 84% of Americans don't know where Ukraine is even at. So we're to sit here and watch everything crumble apart like it hasn't already crumbled apart enough. Like we haven't been through enough. Like it hasn't gotten bad enough yet that now this is what we get. Biden's got interactions with, I mean, look at his connections with Ukraine. Look at how much money his kid made over there. He tries to say he doesn't have any, you know, no connection. He flew over there with him. He's, you know, he's taken a ton of money from China. I mean, he's been involved with Russia. You know, I mean, Putin is not even in the least bit intimidated or scared by him whatsoever. Could you imagine? I mean, looking over here at what we got going on and thinking, I'm going to do whatever I want. Where's Putin going to go next? I don't know. He's going to go wherever the hell he wants. All he has to do is threaten the nuclear weapons, and, you know, dummy shits his pants and goes and eats some pudding and gets up and gives a speech in which he says absolutely nothing. He takes no responsibility for anything. I mean, to me, people are going to make mistakes, but you need to admit to it. You need to take. He didn't take ownership for a thing. He hasn't yet. He blames the people of our country, our citizens, the people that supposedly voted for him. He blames them for the things that have happened. He blames us for the supply chain, all those problems. What do you think is going to happen to the supply chain now with fuel prices? What's going to happen to your grocery? I mean, it's bad enough. I mean, I walk out of the grocery store with 3 bags of shit, and it's $50, $60, $70 for, I'm talking like the milk, egg, and cheese and lunch meat run, bread. Walk out of there with 3 bags and, 50, 60, 70, depending on what, I mean, everything is going up. It's going up. It's going up. And the value of the dollar is going down. And I mean, they told us all that this was going to be transitory inflation. Oh yeah, real transit. And then it's here to stay. And then Biden gets interviewed and is asked a question about it, and calls the guy a wise guy for asking the question. I mean, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy stuff going on, I mean, NATO's trying to do this too, it's nuts. I mean, yeah, then you start seeing John Bolton come out of the woodwork, And there was an interview with a lieutenant colonel earlier today, and it was on Fox Business with Varney, and I mean, he told the truth, and Varney just about lost it. I'll see if I can find this. They might not even have it on here. They probably pulled it off because it doesn't fit the narrative. And Aaron Monte was talking about, he'd interviewed the guy, I want to say he was a lieutenant colonel. Maybe he was even higher than that. I don't think he was a general. But I mean, a guy like Aaron Monte, you kind of have to. I mean, I'll tell you, those are him, Jimmy Dore, Max Blumenthal. Those guys get this shit right. They get it right. They see through the bullshit. They do their homework. They're journalists. I mean, they go out there and they figure this shit out, and they're not scared to call it like they see it. And it's not oftentimes what everybody wants to hear. Lee Camp is another one. I mean, and he gets censored all the time, I mean, but the narrative on this thing, the way that this is being played out, it's not what's going on. It's not what's happening. It's a whole different thing than, I mean, people don't understand what's gone on over there, I mean, they don't. It's so many miles away. It's so far out of our sphere of influence, and we don't even know what's going on in our own country. I mean, here we got the ghost of Kyiv, that thing. I mean, that not even a thing. I mean, there's so much misinformation. It seems like every time something comes out that within 48 hours it's debunked. It's happened over and over. They showed footage of explosions and things like that. They turned out to be from 2015. It was like a chemical plant in China. They showed an old lady in front of a burned out house, China, 2015. And they're trying to make, you don't know what you're seeing over there. And I'm not saying one way or another, but the thing is, the way I try to live my life is that I want to personally be able to validate things before I say them, before I buy into them. And I don't buy into any of this. I mean, this stuff, with technology today, I'm an idiot when it comes to this stuff. And I could sit here with the things that I have in front of me, being an idiot, and I could fabricate things and put people in different places and say this is that and this is this and this is that and the other thing. It's just like the movie Wag the Dog. It's exactly like it, man. It's what's going on here. It's what's been going on for a long time, and we're too stupid. We're too stupid. We just buy into it. We sing the songs. I mean, look at Lee Greenwood. That guy made his career over one song. Over going in and pummeling a bunch of Iraqis. Not saying Saddam was a good guy. Not saying that at all. Also not saying that under Bush, 100,000 people needed to die over there and that cities needed to be decimated. And then he gets up there and he grandstands in front of the, up there at the dinner, at the White House, where you've got all the press and everything. And he's up there and he's like faking looking under his ass, saying, "Oh, no WMDs down there." And they all laugh. People's lives were lost. It was the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And he got up there and made a mockery of the fact that the American people were lied to. And basically that a bunch of people died. They made shit up under his father, saying that they had, it was like an ambassador, I'm not sure, it was a daughter of somebody in Iraq that was, in with the United States, get up there and talk about seeing the troops come into a hospital and grab babies out of incubators and throw them on the ground. It didn't happen. It never happened. And what happened? Everybody got fired up. Just like the story about the 13 guys on Snake Island when this whole thing in Ukraine saying Russian battleship, go fuck yourself. And then they said, oh, and then all 13 of them were decimated and killed. No, they weren't. The Russians took them, fed them, sent them back to their families. That's what happened. And everybody wanted to get all, wish you just all, oh, geez, they're so brave. I mean, and here's our great leader. This guy is now, not only is he not a war criminal, but he's like friends with the Obamas and stuff, and all the lefties love him. I mean, there was not any worse time, I thought, that, George Bush, oh God. I remember in 2003 when it was, when it was made apparent that we were going into Iraq to go into war. I was just beside myself, because I'm going, what? And nobody else was really around was saying anything. I'm like, what kind of sense does this make? Why are we going to Iraq? It's like they didn't have anything to do with 9/11. We can't find a 6'5" Arab guy that's on a dialysis machine, hiding out in a cave. Are we going there for 20 years? 20 years. See, that's what's going on here, right? I'm happy that we're not in Iraq. I'm not happy that we left a lot of people there. I'm not happy we were there in the first place. I think it was a bad move to begin with. War is always a bad move in my mind, in my opinion. People wanted to get on Trump about the fact that he would negotiate with people. They said if they could set something up with Iranian leadership, would he take the meeting? He said, yeah. Bolton, of course, absolutely not, because what does John Bolton want? He's a war hawk. And when you see him start coming up on the news again, things are going to get stupid, because that's the only time that guy comes around. When it's time for a war, boy, that angry walrus, I tell you what, he's got that 1.5-inch thick mustache, and he's pumped up and ready to go. And if anybody's going to listen to him, boy, he's ready. He's on it. His advice is always for, bombs, missiles, regime change. Regime change. Always. Look at that guy. What would you trust that guy with? I don't think I'd trust him with much. Bad haircut, worse mustache, terrible grimace on his face. I think I would like that walrus more than I would like him. And those walrus can be pretty nasty, but he's also proved to be, do the same thing. And here's a guy that's never seen war. He's never been out on the front line. He's never seen what war brings. And granted, I haven't either. I don't want to. I don't want any of you to. I don't want any of our children to. Is there something wrong with that? I tell you what, I mean, in my mind, I'd be fine if there was never another war ever. It'd be nice to see people just live in peace and harmony and stop this. But unfortunately, you know, it's just there's so many bad actors out there that are pushing a war all the time. Now that we've left Afghanistan and we totally made a debacle out of that, which I was hoping during the State of the Union address, I was thinking, and I told somebody this, I said, you know what, if Biden comes out and he takes some responsibility for what happened there and is honest about what a bad screw up that was, there was a start. A person has to take responsibility for their actions. And a person that doesn't, a person that points the finger and blames others, especially when he's blaming the people that elected him, supposedly, you know, that's not much of a sign of a man to me. That's a coward. I mean, I make mistakes all the time, and I try and own up to them. I try and take responsibility every time. Sometimes it might take a minute for me to realize, oh man, that was screwed up. Wow, shit, I got to make this right. You know, but I always do my best to do that. And I'm not putting myself on a pedestal or anything like that. I'm just saying that a person that is, you know, at least trying to have some integrity and be honest about things is going to stand up and say, hey, I got this wrong. And, you know, my fault, you know, won't happen again. You know, or I'll do my best to make sure it doesn't happen again, because, you know, hey, we all get caught up in things. We all make, I do, you know, that's a tough thing when you make the same mistake a couple times, when you know, especially when you have the gut feeling that you're doing it again and you just do it anyhow. And then you're like, oh God, why did I do that? Stupid. But this guy's never going to take ownership for it. He never has taken ownership for anything, even blatantly plagiarizing and lying about how he graduated from college in the top part of his class, and plagiarizing, you know, British politicians' speeches almost word for word, plagiarizing, you know, different things in college, papers in college that he plagiarized, that he just wrote word for word from somebody else's work. And then he says, well, you know, it wasn't malicious in nature. It's still plagiarism. It still means that you didn't have the knowledge to actually, you know, create a document for a class in law school, of all things, without copying it from somebody else. I mean, this guy, and I just, quite frankly, I don't see any need for even the office of the presidency. It's the way that the oligarchs can prop up their person and use them. And that's why everybody hated Trump so much. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not, and I've made this abundantly clear over and over. I was not, nor am I, a big Trump supporter. I wasn't during the last election. I was behind, I like Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know what's going to get thrown out there on this next one. It doesn't necessarily matter, because it's, as long as we got a two-party system, it's going to be another 4 years of the same stupid thing. And then you see that goofy Hillary, you know, she's starting to rear her clucking head again. And then you go, oh God, you know, she's almost as bad as watching Biden. It was very difficult for me to watch that State of the Union, and it was always difficult to watch any of the Hillary stuff, because that woman, what a vile individual. And I can tell you right now, here's the thing that immediately, from jump with her, okay, I don't give whatever else, anything, one of the first cases that she tried when she got out of law school, she was defending a rapist of a 12-year-old girl. She got him off. The guy raped a girl. She knew he did it. She knew he did it. She's admitted she knew he did it. Now, to me, I know that there's supposed to be, client-attorney privilege, but to me, you put me in a, I don't know how they get called. It's through a public defender's office. I don't know how it works, though. I don't know, I don't know if it's I think it's just kind of a random deal. And it's like something that you have to do every once in a while. But you call me in and I got to go in there and I got to defend a guy that I know raped a little girl. There ain't no amount of attorney-client privilege in that situation that's going to make me go up and advocate for that guy. No way. I'll walk. Send to me, remove me from the bar. I don't care. She did that and just didn't even care. Laughed about it. Thought it was funny. Kind of like she laughed about, we saw he died. About Gaddafi. Slave trade in Libya now. Open air slave markets. Who talks about that? Anybody? Nobody gives a shit because it's fucking Libya, right? Who cares? Right? Who gives a shit? But for some reason, we're all up in this Ukraine stuff. And this has been going on for a long time. This has been a deal that where, whoops-a-daisy. NATO didn't keep their agreement to Russia. They didn't keep their, they've not kept their promise to Russia. They said that there was not going to be any expansion of NATO. And to tell you the truth, once the Soviet Union collapsed, NATO should have been done. It should have been done. Should have disbanded. Should have been, that's it. I mean, to be, and now they're talking, they want to, now we're talking about having Poland, send fighter jets into Ukraine, and then we're going to backlog those fighter planes. So, Poland's never going to see those fighter jets again, whether they get shot down, whatever. They're going to become property of Ukraine. And guess who's left holding the tab? We are. You and me are going to be paying for. Why doesn't Poland throw something out in there? You know what I mean? Why do we have to? We're the ones. They said they'd do it if we would backlog. So we're going to be left holding the bag for that too. That's okay. It's just your kids' money. It's just your money. It's not even real money, so who cares? We'll just go and make up some more money and then guess who's gonna profit off that? Because I can tell you what. Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Grumman, they're not going to foot the bill. They're not going to foot the bill. They're going to make money off of it. That's what's going to happen. They're going to make money off of it. You mark my words, they ain't doing anything for free. Do you think the military-industrial complex does anything for free? They didn't do a thing for free. This is all about this for those people. And we got out of Afghanistan in a ridiculous fashion. I mean, what a global embarrassment that was. Watching people fly off of a military plane to their death because they're hanging on to the landing gear and it goes up and they got to make a choice. I mean, do you get cut in half or do you let go? You're dead either way. And they know things are going to get so bad in their country that they're willing to do that. And we sit there and watch it on TV and everybody hems and haws about it for a couple of days. And then it goes away. The one thing I like about Hannity is every day he says what day it is since we got out of there. And the fact of the matter is, according to the military documentation that's out there, there was upwards of 9,000 people left behind there. Not 100, not 120. And even if it was 100 or 120, still too many. Because anybody that was Afghani that helped the United States out during that whole debacle, they're dead. Any Americans over there? I mean, you got to be doing a real good job of hiding out. I mean, they cut out the internet. For Christ's sake, they kill their own people for singing folk music. No music. I mean, it's the same people that were running that joint before we went in, and it's the same people now, only they got one of the strongest militaries in the world. That's what your fearless leader did. I hope that all y'all that voted for Biden are real happy with yourselves right now. I hope you're pleased. I really do. I hope you're pleased. Because it's not going to get any better. It's only getting worse. And it's getting worse by the fucking day. And so my question to you people out there that, have half a brain in your head, that you have any kind of a independent spirit, that you have any kind of critical thinking going on whatsoever in your mind, that perhaps you examine what I've been saying, and that's to walk away from this. What are they going to do if we don't acknowledge it? They don't have this authority to do what they're doing. We don't have to sit here and just buckle to this. It's all a leverage thing. It's leverage. It's fear. It's the fact that we've been comfortable and complacent. But guess what? For things to change, for things to get better, sometimes it takes a little bit of being uncomfortable. Sometimes it takes a little bit of, sometimes you can't be complacent about things. Compromise is one thing. I'm fine with compromise, but this isn't even that. This is just complacent bullshit. We've been doing the same stupid thing. It's the alcoholic's definition of insanity. We keep doing the same things over and over again, and we expect different results. And we do it every election because it flips and it flops. It's Democrat, Republican. As long as we have these two parties and they know that they can divide us, they're just going to stay in. There's no term limits on these people. Any incumbent senator or representative, get them out. Bye. That's how you make a difference, people. Next election, midterm elections, 2022, do not vote for another incumbent. Period. Don't do it. Get them out. Especially all you people in California, anybody that's, any of these people, most of them, there's only a handful of them that are even worth anything. And I don't even know if they are. It's all grandstanding. And it's money. That's it. And I come back to this all the time, but you have to think about the mental state of somebody that wants to run from one of these positions. Look what Tulsi Gabbard did. She left. She had it. She was one that was, I didn't agree with all her decisions. It broke my heart when she backed Biden. That was just terrible. I couldn't believe it when she did that. That was something that, but I think she felt the pressure of, being called a agent of Russia after having been in the military for like 16 years, 2 tours in Iraq as a medic. What do you think she saw? There's a reason that, there's a reason that people come back from those wars and you have such a high suicide rate. There's a reason that a lot of those people that come back from these wars end up, they would prefer to be homeless because they can't find any way to fit back into society after what they've seen. You got to figure it had to, our veterans have had to have seen some pretty horrible stuff. To come back and want to live on the streets, kill yourself. Sometimes there's violence committed against others. PTSD. That's a difficult thing to deal with. It's you're antisocial. Feel better being out on the streets by yourself, if it was so glorious and so wonderful to partake in war, then I think that those veterans will be coming back to a hero's welcome. And they would have no problem assimilating back into society. But that doesn't seem to be the case. And then you have hawks like this John Bolton. He doesn't give two shits about sending your kids over into the middle of a war zone because guess what? He's going to make some money off of it. You know? And he's going to sit here. He's not going over there. That's what we ought to do. We ought to send these politicians that want to go and start wars. Here's your uniform, private. Here's your ticket to basic. Send them over there. Put Mitch McConnell on. You know that guy would shit his pants. Put him out there. Mr. Peanut, man. If that guy had a monocle and a cane, he'd be on a Planters can. And that ain't no joke. That dude is one goofy looking turd, man. And he drives me nuts. He's so fucking wishy-washy and flim-flammy. I mean, he's a prime example of somebody. He'll do and say whatever in the world that he possibly can just to stay right there in office. He's horrible. That dude needs to go. I mean, does that guy really need to? I mean, who wants him in there? I've not heard anybody say anything good about him. And I don't see where he's done anything for anybody except himself. Now here, this is going to be funny. It's not funny. This is actually pretty fucking pathetic, but we're going to put this up. And we're going to watch this. And you're going to see how silly this is. And then when you think about all the people that died over these lies that we were told, you know, Bob Mueller, he was one of them. And, you know, during the whole Trump Russiagate bullshit thing, he was the guy. Well, Mueller's on it. The walls are closing in. Every night, Rachel Maddow, the walls are closing in. You know, Anderson Cooper, the walls are closing in. Wolf Blitzer, the walls are closing. I mean, it was like the favorite. They said that just about as much as Jen Psaki says reiterate. I think she says reiterate probably 5 or 6 times a minute. Let me reiterate that she talks with the hand. I mean, so here we go. This is real neat. Joe Jones, why? Here he goes. He makes a mockery out of goodificate. Yeah, Condoleezza. Yeah, look at that. They got to be somewhere. It's a joke. He's making a mockery out of this. When you're not. He doesn't, never let your opponent know what you're thinking. Okay. So see, they're all getting up. See, and look at all these people, they're all clapping. This is your White House correspondents' dinner. They just clapped for that. Those are the people that you're getting your news from, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the people that you're getting your news from. Okay? Just let that sink in for a second. They clapped for that. How many people died over that fake claim of weapons of mass destruction? And nobody cares. Who cares? It's just the Middle East, right? It's just Iraq. What gives those people any less of a right to live a free and decent life because they were born somewhere else? And we sit here and sing songs We sing flag songs. We sing about proud to be an American. What are you so proud about? You didn't do anything. It had nothing to do with any of it. Just because your mom plopped you out over here on this continent, in this country, it's not, I mean, what, how does that make you so proud? I hate that every time I hear that Lee Greenwood song. I'm sorry. I don't like it. And I'm not proud to be an American because I had nothing to do with it. I could have just as easily been born anywhere else. Senegal, Sierra Leone, Taiwan. None of us have any, we don't make a choice about, contrary to Scientology, we don't make the decision on where we're born. And so how does that make us proud? I mean, that's why I have a big problem with nationalism. Because it's sitting there and it's basically saying that you hate somebody else because of things that you had nothing to do with. I mean, and I have, ancestors and family that served in the military. And they did so honorably. But I would never advise anybody to join the armed forces. And you want to say support the troops. Well, support having them back home. Not going overseas and getting involved in any more bullshit until we fix things at home. We have got a mess here, and we're trying to just think it's going to go away. It's always going to be a new crisis. Never let a good one go to waste, right, people? We've got crisis going on right here. We have a homeless crisis. We have a crisis in our healthcare system. It's not being handled. It's not being taken care of. It's not even being discussed. Now, these politicians should be discussing that. Not talking Poland into sending fighter planes to Ukraine. And talking about democracy all the time. This democracy. When you have 14,000 people inside of a country that's been shelled, sniped, blown up, what have you, 14,000. Some people say, okay, well, a country 44 million, that's not very many. I've gotten that response. It's 14,000 too many in my mind. And in my mind, that's not a democracy. If that President Zelensky can't keep that from happening, now I don't know what, I'm not an expert on the region. I'll be the first to admit it. But I can tell you that those are legit numbers. I've researched it. I've looked into it. And I don't speak numbers that I am speculating on. Now, sometimes I suppose we can get it wrong because a lot of times there are things out there that are, misinformation. But I'll tell you where you get the most of your misinformation is from watching these jackasses on the television and listening to this crap on Facebook and reading these stupid memes that people put out. Almost every one of these things that was made to invoke some kind of an emotion about Ukraine, it turned out to be false. Now, there are a lot of people that are fleeing that country, and I feel for them. And there's been a lot of violence going on over there, and I do not condone it. I'm not making any kind of light of it. I am not even any way behind it. But I'm also saying that there's more to the story than what you're seeing. And if you don't even know where the country is or any of the history or the past of the country, and I'm learning. I try to do my homework, but it's a complicated deal. There's a lot of facets to the thing, and there's a lot of stuff that you're not seeing because what you're listening to is, and it doesn't matter what side of the fence. And I can tell you this right now too: when Democrats and Republicans both start uniting on things, when they both start thinking the same thing, when they both start speaking the same way about different things, I can guarantee you that something is not right. You can always rest assured when that happens that there is something going on that's behind the scenes. And as I always say, I know I sound like a broken record, but if you follow the money, it's typically going to lead you to what you're looking for. Sometimes you don't want to see it, though. I think people would rather be like a emu or an ostrich or whatever that big ass bird is that just sticks its head right in the sand. Everybody always asks me, why do you get into this political stuff? Because I want to know what's going on. I want to know what it is that's causing the things that happen to happen. I'm curious about it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Granted, hey, if I would love to go in there though and shake things up in Washington D.C. I'll tell you what, that would be fun. But it would never happen because I don't have that cheese and I'm not on the money river and I'm an ex-felon and, who knows? I mean, if I had the opportunity to go in there, I would do it. I would consider that to be, a duty. And I think it would be great if there were more people, any person should be able to run for office. It shouldn't have to do with your money. It should have to do with, what's in your heart and what's in your mind. I mean, so many of these people that run for office, they're narcissists. They're doing it for recognition, self-edification. They're doing it to the pursuit of power over others. I mean, you have to be pretty narcissistic to run for president. Think about that. Trump is, look at that dude. Trump's a narcissist. I mean, I don't care what you say. He's a megalomaniac narcissist, straight up. I mean, he's funny as hell. I'll tell you what, CNN is missing him. I saw the other day they're saying that Joe Rogan, right? There's another one that it's amazing what they're doing, trying to do to him. He gets about 11 million viewers or listeners per podcast. The other night at the peak primetime hour, CNN had around 700,000. 700,000 people tuned into CNN. And you all listen to that garbage. You listen to those idiots. Hell, they can't keep their hands to themselves. How many of them have been in trouble for, different, Chester molesters shit? And look at Cuomo. Ain't nothing going to happen to the Andrew. How many elderly people did he kill because of his pompous ass? And how many females' lives did he screw up because he couldn't keep his hands to himself? How many females does that type of shit happen to that nobody ever even knows about from these dirty ass fucking politicians? They're in a position of power. They know they're in a position of power and they take advantage of it, and they take advantage of people, and they ruin people's lives. Tell me what a politician's ever done for you. That's my question. That's what we're going to end up with. Tell me. Put it in the comments. If you like the show, hit the like button. It would help me out. If you subscribe, it helps me out even more. I don't want to be that guy asking for it. I'm asking you, though, if you gain any kind of substance from this, if it gets the wheels turning, if you think any of it is worth the shit listening to, then, hey, do me a favor. There's a lot that goes into this. There's an awful lot that goes into this, a lot of time. I've had to relearn a lot of things, and I've had to change the trajectory of my existence to do this. And even though it's difficult, and especially it's difficult to do it by myself. I mean, a lot of these people that you see, they've got producers and this and that and the other thing, people that are taking care of all the technical things. I have to take care of it all on my own. So sometimes things come out screwed up, and I'm sorry for that. I tried to do that. I was trying to do a live stream of the State of the Union with Mr. Charlie Caperton and my friend Brooke Schuster, and earlier in the day, everything was working great. Not a problem. I didn't touch anything. Left the house, went to do some things I had to do, come back, got back in time to get the thing up or try to get it up and running, and my voice sounded like a robot. Maybe y'all think I sound like a robot anyhow, all the time. I sound like fucking Biden, mumbling and stuttering and stammering, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling. But no, it's difficult. So, I mean, anytime you push the like button, it helps me out. And it gets me one step closer to monetization. And that would definitely help because I've pretty much put everything that I have into the equipment to do this. It's not cheap. It's not easy to learn how to do this. I mean, the software changes all the time. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at my statistics down here, just making sure I don't got drop frame rates. And I'm at a 0.1% of skip frames due to encoding, which to me, that's pretty good because some of the bad ones, I mean, I have 0 drop frames in 136,197 frames on this live recording. To me, that seems pretty good. I'm happy with that. I'm stoked on that because I wasn't having that for a while. I mean, so anyway, I'm just saying, if you like it, hit the like button because it does. It helps. And I've found myself do that with everybody. If you're on YouTube and you're watching people's videos, make sure you do that because you're helping somebody out. If you're getting quality information from somebody, if you're gaining knowledge, if you're gaining any kind of substance from things that other people are putting out there, they're also doing the same thing. They're putting their time and effort into it, and it's difficult. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to sit in front of this camera. It's not easy to sit here and talk this long by myself, and maybe I just sound like a babbling. See, this is the one thing that I can't fix that. I can't get that to go away. So you're all just going to have to deal with that. That's going to happen once every 30 minutes or so. You're going to get that, but it comes right back on. That's the best I can do. It used to just shut off. That was the worst. Be in the middle of something, all of a sudden the camera's just like blank screen. I'm like, what the fuck? So I feel pretty good about every once in a while just seeing the Canon webcam utility or whatever it is. Sorry, I just popped my knuckle. I know that drives some people nuts. Personally, I think it feels kind of good. I'm a chronic knuckle cracker. But, hey, live and let live, right? Anyway, on that note, I'll leave you with our standard exit. I'm going to take you guys out with the typical song with some Brandon Hart. And as we say around here from the Mike Files, be good or be good at it. In all things be kind and do no harm. Stay up, love one another. We're going to get through this. But you know what? It's going to be time. I think it's time we stand up. Okay? So on top of that, I'm going to add stand tall on the end of it. Okay? So stand tall, people. Stand tall. Help each other out in these times. Be good to one another. All right? I'm out. Hopefully I'll see y'all tomorrow. Later days with Amaze. I'm going to leave you with the Angry Walrus. Yeah. Butthole mouth.
I've been up all night trying to figure this out. I drank a half a bottle of whiskey, sat down on my couch. Couldn't believe what they were talking about when someone said they found you dead at your house. And how could this be true? I still needed you. I can't believe that I'll never see you. It must have been so bad I can't begin to even try to explain what you've been through. There's no way out, only a way through. wish I could have done more. I miss you. I will always love you. You will always hold a space in my heart.